Today on Comicstorian, we're going to be looking at an older storyline known as Thor vs. Hulk. Comicstorian's a channel where we take comic books, we break them down into an audio drama, and then I get to voice act the characters as I see fit. We leave out a good chunk of the storylines, allowing there to be something for you to go out and add to your collection, which I do recommend because we all want to support this industry and keep it moving. But today we're going to be looking at a storyline that came out digitally during the Thor Ragnarok story. So when the movie dropped, they released a digital book known as Thor vs. Hulk. And it was pretty fun, just a fun digital book that came out. We did it in a couple of parts here at Comicstorian, and today I've combined them to bring you the Thor vs. Hulk full story. So let's get into that right now and stop wasting time.
Just outside of the Earth's orbit, two of the mightiest Avengers do what they can to protect the Earth by smashing asteroids that an alien ship has started hurling towards the planet. Thor breaks through another asteroid and yells, "Ha! The mighty Thor has cleaved 27 space rocks. What say you, Hulk?" And the Hulk punches through another and shouts, "Hulk smash space rocks! Then Hulk smash Blondie's puny head." Thor laughs and asks the Hulk, "How about we make a competition out of this then? That way you can witness the might of Mjolnir." He throws his hammer through another 5 asteroids, asking, "What do you make of that?" And the Hulk grabs 2 of the asteroids, throwing them into a group of asteroids, and the Hulk says, "I see a cluster that you missed." As he flies towards it, the Hulk claps his hands, throwing Thor off his balance, knocking him into a rather large asteroid. Hulk floats down, telling him, 76. What little hammers say about that?" And Thor tells him, "Fine. How about this large rock that you pressed again?" The Hulk tells him, "Rock not rock, that rock ship." And Thor laughs, telling him, "Double or nothing then. Whoever brings down the alien ship wins the day." Without saying nothing, Hulk punches Thor down so hard that he shoots through the entire ship. And Hulk shrugs, telling him, "Hulk wins again." And now with a hole in the alien ship, the Hulk flies, grabbing one of the aliens, and begins to beat the others with the alien that he grabbed. The aliens begin to run away, and then from the other side, Thor flies in, telling Hulk, "You've gone too far. We will deal with this after we stop these aliens." However, as the two of them fight their way through the ship towards the command room, they're suddenly stopped and trapped within 2 bubbles. Thor asks, "What devilry is this?" And then a light shines and the two see a silhouette of a figure and a female voice yelling, "It is finally time for the actual game to begin." The light fades and a dark-skinned woman in pink says that it's been far too long for these men to pretend that they are the strongest there is. She then jumps to another part of the stars, stating, "Today they will face off against Trico, champion of the universe. And what is an all-powerful god of battle to do? Why, find the universe's best height woman ever. And that would be me, last of my race, elder of the universe, mistress of marketing. The promoter!" Thor tells the promoter, "Hold on for a moment. You wanted to throw asteroids towards Earth just to get our attention? All you had to do was ask." The promoter says that there is so much more to it than that. Right now, it is time for them to prove their worth and find out which of them will face off against Trico. The projector in the middle of the floor begins to light up and display a belt. And the promoter says, "The first challenge is to find this belt. It's called the Belt of Thurgid, the Unbeatable." And Thor says, "Wait, the Frost Giant champion? The one and the very same, but don't worry, something worse has already killed him, so have a nice trip." As she snaps her fingers, the heroes suddenly see black as they're dropped into a dark cave. Thor grabs and holds up his hammer to provide light, and Hulk pulls his hand back from touching a wall, and he says, "Hulk hates sticky cave." He takes a step, walking through some of the muck, and shouts, "Why floor sticky?" Then the Hulk hears something, and he punches the wall, smashing something. Thor looks back, asking, "What did you just smash?" And the Hulk says, "Hulk saw a bug. Big bug." Thor sighs and continues to walk forward, stating that he has a theory as to what killed their frost giant. It would probably be the brood infestation, which he just smashed. The small broods begin to skitter, and Thor tells Hulk that he believes that it's time to begin counting again. As the two begin to run back the way they came, Hulk punches through what he can, yelling, "Hulk just need bug spray!" Thor stops and turns back, holding his hammer up, shocking all of the surrounding brood. And Hulk continues running forward, shouting, "Hulk leaving! Hulk not like bugs!" Thor tells him, "Wait! There's no light!" But before he can finish, the Hulk is thrown out of the tunnel that he just went into. Thor looks down the tunnel, asking, "What manner of beast throws the Hulk thusly?" As Mjolnir's light shines in, a giant brood wearing the belt that they are looking for arrives. And Thor says, "You must be Thurgid, the the unbeatable. As the brood leans down telling Thor that that was the body of Thor, get the unbeatable. I have now become one of the brood, and now you shall join me as guardian. As the brood lunges at Thor, he flies out of the way, slamming his hammer down onto the brood's leg, calling forth the thunderous crackle of lightning. As Thor pulls his hammer back, he notices that it didn't do anything, and the brood laughs, telling him, "Frost giant magic. The belt makes the armor indestructible, and the brood have already got a natural exoskeleton. There is no way that you can win." The brood then smacks Thor into a slime-covered wall, and as Thor tries to free himself, the brood begins to move in. Just before it can get close, Hulk runs in, grabbing the brood by the leg, throwing him into the wall. And then he looks up at the Thor and he says, "Blondie, see belt." And Thor tells him, "It's on the creature. Now get him down so that we can." A hissing sound comes from behind them, and the Hulk yells, "Hulk not smash bugs, Hulk squash bugs!" And he proceeds to start jumping on the smaller brood. Thor sighs as he tries to free himself, and that's when his hammer begins to light up. It begins to burn away the slime, keeping it in place. Back down below, the Thurgid brood swipes at the Hulk, telling him, "You will make an excellent addition to the brood." But while more of the brood begin to surround the Hulk, Thor charges up his hammer and he manages to throw it down, barely missing the Thurgid brood. The Thurgid brood says that perhaps the Asgardian isn't worth infecting. He seems to have missed. And Thor asks, "Did I?" And just as he says that, the hollow ground begins to crumble beneath the brood. The ground finally gives way, causing the Thurgid brood to fall into a pit, and Thor shouts, "There! Now help me so that I can retrieve the belt." Thor thinks about it and then smiles. "Hulk not stupid." And he jumps down below. As he lands on the Thurgid brood, he says, "Hulk not know much, but Hulk know belts are for holding up pants. And bugs not wear pants." As Hulk pulls the belt off, he jumps out of the hole, crashing into Thor, and then he continues jumping until the two of them are out of the cave. But just as they both get outside, they suddenly pop out of existence. As the two blink, they find themselves back in the bubble cages that they were in before, and the promoter takes the belt off, stating that that is one big green monster. The promoter snaps her fingers again, changing into a suit of armor, stating that the next place that they are heading to is in a faraway world, where swords and sorcery rule. Whoever brings the champion this locket will get the next point and be one step closer to the challenging. Oh, and by the way, last I heard, the locket was owned by a dragon. The promoter snaps her fingers again, and the two disappear, and they reappear on the planet Wildlands. Thor magically pops, appearing in the sky, and as he grasps, he doesn't feel anything, shouting, "Where's my hammer?" Without his hammer, Thor falls down, crashing into the trees below before finally slamming his head onto the ground. He then reaches for his helmet, stating that pratfall was worthy of the great Volstagg. Let's try calling Mjolnir again. But before he can shout, he hears a woman's voice call out that there he is. She saw him fall from the sky, and yet he still lives. How is it even possible? Thor says that it takes much more than that to harm the god of thunder, and the woman says that he needs to let her take care of him. At her home, she has bandages and fresh water. Thor begins to get up, telling her, "Well, I can think of no better place to begin my quest. My name is Thor, son of Odin. What mere word could we use to call one as beautiful as you?" The woman says that her name is Uldar, daughter of Dreki, and Thor says, "Well met. Now, there is one thing that I must know. Does this world have mead?" Elder helps Thor to his feet, and as she carries him off, she asks, "What is mead?" After a short while and getting over the sadness of there being no mead, Eldor brings Thor to the spring to bathe him, and he says that he's starting to think that she has other motives. She laughs, stating that she does. His smell is rather overwhelming, and Thor says, "It is a fair statement." As he gets down into the spring, he mentions that he does have a question. What does she know of dragons? She continues to retrieve his bandages, telling him that there are very few left. They were hunted relentlessly by the king's guard. Thor washes himself, stating that she says that as if she mourns for them. Are they not dangerous beasts? She tells him that they're not as dangerous as some would have them believe. He goes back to washing himself as three knights walk by, and they shout, asking, what is he doing? There are dragons loose, and he has no clothing on? He steps out of the spring, stating that there must be some mistake. There are no dragons. I am merely waiting for medical assistance for my injuries, but one of the knights shouts that there she is, Eldor, daughter of Dreki. Halt in the name of the king. Thor steps between the knights and the woman, stating, now, surely you do not wish to harm this lady. And one of the knights states that that is not a lady, that is an abomination. Thor reaches down, grabbing one of the knight's swords, kicking him back, standing, fine. Then you best back away before I have to get involved. However, there's a ripping sound coming from behind him, and he asks, what was that? And as he turns around to see Eldor, he sees that she's finished transforming into a dragon. And Thor says, this is not how I imagined that this relationship would progress. As she towers over Thor and the knight, she roars, and Thor says that surely there is a way to resolve this matter without eating these men. And one of the knights shouts that they shall run this ungodly creature through, and runs up, stabbing Eldor in the foot. Eldor howls in pain and backs up, and Thor notices that she's not fighting back. He then asks, "What manner of knights are you? No creature will perish under my watch." And after grabbing a log, he jumps in to fight the knights. One of the knights points their sword at Thor, telling him that he stands between the defenders of the realm and the scourge that threatens to destroy the kingdom. And Thor says, "No! I stand for a kind lady who tended for a stranger in need, simply because I was in need." Meanwhile, elsewhere, Hulk is doing Hulk things, like holding a one-man siege against a castle because the knights shot him with arrows. But back with Thor, while he fights off the knights, one manages to sneak up behind him and stab him in the shoulder with a dagger. Eldor shouts that he has been murdered, and Thor tells her, "Nay, I shall live." And Eldor shouts that she cannot allow these madmen to kill those who would fight for her. With one deep breath, she opens her mouth, releasing a giant wave of fire, burning the knights where they stand. As Thor attempts to treat the stab wound, Eldor transforms back into her human form, running over, telling Thor that she needs to take the dagger out. Before returning, Thor looks up and sees the locket that he's after around her neck, and he says, "That locket." Eldor pulls the blade out, asking what of it, and Thor explains that he was tasked to retrieve it. It was supposed to be a contest to prove his strength. She looks at the dagger, stating that the blade was crafted from either the tooth of her mother or sister, all in the name of strength. As her tone changes, she begins to transform back into a dragon, shouting that if it's a test of strength he wants, then she shall show them all what strength is. Meanwhile, back at the castle, in a rather unexpected turn of events, the Hulk is now knighted by the Queen, since apparently all he wanted to do was fight a dragon. But just before the Queen can lower her sword, there's a sudden crash and something is thrown through the hallways and into the Queen. As the smoke clears, she looks up holding Thor, and Thor says, "Please forgive me, I'm having a bit of a dispute with a lady friend." Hulk stands up asking, "Blondie lost hammer and pants? You should have come with me. These men wanted to fight Hulk, but now Hulk a knight and go fight dragon. Blondie should come." But before Hulk can finish, Thor smacks him with a table, stating no thank you, and he quickly escapes outside of the castle. As he makes his way outside, he calls to Eldor, telling her that she doesn't have to do this if she's going to attack the castle. Now she would not only be killing soldiers, but women and children. There's no redemption from such slaughter. He cannot allow her to continue any further with this madness. She kneels down, telling him that he's right, she can't. And that's when the Hulk shouts, "Blondie!" Thor looks over at Hulk, covered in knight's armor, and he yells, "Blondie fight dragon and not to Hulk! Blondie cheat! Hulk have at you!" Thor tries to tell him to wait, but before Thor realizes it, Hulk leaps over him and punches into Eldor. Eldor roars and releases a blast of fire, but before the fire can hit the Hulk, Thor runs in, knocking him out of the way. Eldor asks Thor if he would sacrifice himself for this brute as well, and Thor tells her that his people have faced death 100 times over. Hulk may seem like a savage, but he is a soul at war with himself, much like you. Eldor begins to change back, and she says that he saved her this day. Please, take the locket. It has the power to heal any wound, and Thor tells her that he could not accept such a thing. So she places the locket into Thor's hand, and him and Hulk begin to fade. Eldor says that it is a shame that he must go. She was thinking of mending his wounds, and allow him to mend a few of hers if he knows what she means. Thor shouts, "Promoter! What say you allow us to?" But before he could finish, he disappears. Seconds later, Thor wakes up in a room and he sees that Bruce is Bruce. He's not the Hulk, he's Bruce Banner. He rushes over to try and wake him up and he yells, "I've had enough of these games." And another voice tells Thor that once she snaps his fingers, he will fall into a deep sleep. Just as Thor says, "Nay!" the woman snaps and Thor passes out. The promoter tells the two of them that this is Carla Soffin, psychologist, master manipulator, and supervillain known as Moonstone, and she will be administering the psychological round of testing. After a few moments in Bruce's mind, Bruce wakes up writing on his notepad that he can figure this one out. If they're not on a normal planet experiencing normal psychics, what can they measure? Oh, and what if he sets the notepad down, walks in a straight line, and counts the steps? Carla watches Bruce, who is completely not paying attention to her, and says that if he figures that this isn't real, she could be in trouble. All she needs to do is throw him off. Meanwhile, Bruce is walking in that straight line, and as he reaches the notepad, he counts 42 steps. The answer is 42. Somebody has a sense of humor. Or what if that means... But before he could finish, Carla taps him on the shoulder and Bruce screams. As he looks back, he sees Carla, and she says that her name is Rosalind Franklin Burbage. She seems to be lost here running in circles, and this may sound crazy, but Bruce asks if she keeps ending up at the same place, because he does too, so if she's crazy, then she's in good company. She hugs Bruce, stating, "Yeah, new friend! Losing my mind is my greatest fear. I've never been particularly pretty, but I've always been smart." Bruce stops her right there, though. Wait, did you just say you thought this was all in your head? My mind must be manipulating it to think that I am. Carla hits Bruce and he asks why she's hitting him, and Carla says it's because that must be the answer. And after a short while, Bruce goes over his notes and says, okay, so we've determined that if we walk 42 steps in one direction, we can. But as she begins to jump up and down, Bruce asks what she's doing, and Carla shouts that she thinks she can feel a breeze coming through overhead. Bruce says, well, that would certainly be our biggest lead out here then, wouldn't it? And Carla asks if he heard that. Bruce tells her that he didn't hear anything, and as he puts his ear to the ground, he begins to hear something like footsteps. And as he gets up, he sees himself as the Hulk grabbing and crushing Carla, with her screaming what's happening. Bruce tells the Hulk to please not hurt her. She didn't do anything, and the Hulk shouts, better not tell Hulk what to do. Bruce tries to make sense of what he's seeing, stating that he doesn't understand, and Hulk begins to crush Carla more. Bruce begs the Hulk to stop, and Carla asks Bruce why he's doing this to her, and Bruce asks, me? He blinks, seeing himself as the Hulk crushing Carla. But as she doesn't respond, Bruce puts her down, stating, Hulk not mean to. Hulk not want to hurt nice lady. Hulk help. Slowly he begins to change back as he holds Carla's body and he cries that he didn't mean to. She looks up at him, stating that this isn't the first time, is it? You could stop it from happening again. Do you have the courage to do what needs to be done to stop the beast? You aren't a hero. You just get innocent people like me killed. Just like Betty, your cousin Jennifer, poor Kiara, and even your own mother. You can do it. You can finally rest. But before Carla could go on, she suddenly begins to fade in and out of the real world, and Thor begins to wake up. He wakes up thinking that that wasn't real. He just had to fight a bunch of versions of himself and prove that he was worthy. Oh, there's Mjolnir. He reaches under the couch to grab the hammer, and Carla shouts that she should have figured that he was too dumb to have any real complex feelings. She'll just have to finish him here. And once she does that, she can keep these powers that the promoter promised her. When Carla hears a voice telling her that she's afraid that that's not going to happen, the promoter goes on stating that the deal was that she had to defeat them in their heads, and Thor was the first one to wake up, so he won. It's time to pay up, Moonstone. Carla laughs, stating that it's bad news for them. She can fly and turn intangible. And as she begins to fly off, she smacks into a force field. The promoter pulls the Moonstone from Carla, stating, yeah, guess you didn't think that a force field could apply to intangible people. Oh well. But as Thor and Bruce are put back into their bodies, the promoter says that they have one more trial. They must recover the tacticon. It's a fun little bracelet. It used to be in the possession of Tony Stark, but as it happens with these things, someone stole it and lost it. So guess what they need to do? The promoter snaps her fingers, and then the two of them blink, and they find themselves in the middle of a war. And Thor shouts, we need Hulk to help us. Bruce looks up and asks why, because that's just a black hole in the middle of the sky. A short while later, down the streets of the destroyed city, a mother rushes to find safety with her two sons. But before she could get far, she hears a faint vroom in the distance, and two Chitauri soldiers fly down, charging their blasters. Before the shot can go off, they're hit in the head with Mjolnir, and Thor jumps on the other one, shouting, for Asgard! The mother holds her children close, and Bruce tells her that it's okay now, and the woman shouts that he saved them. Bruce says actually his friend Thor over there did. They'll just have to help them get to a safe place, but if they could, they're looking for something called the tacticon. The woman says that her emperor has it. He might be at the armory, which is where they're headed to right now. Suddenly, Thor slams into the ground, beating the Chitauri, and he asks Bruce, still no Hulk? Didn't these creatures anger you for what they did? Bruce tells him that he's sorry, but Moonstone really tapped into his depression. He did at least get the location of where they need to go, though. Later, in the Royal Military Compound, the general walks out calling to the woman Lyta, stating that she made it. Lyta tells the general that it's thanks to these aliens, Bruce and Thor. The general says that she too is in their debt as well then. Her name is General Marta Kane, and Bruce says, well, speaking of a debt, we're looking for a thing called the tacticon, and Lyta said that the Emperor had it, and may be here. Marta sighs, stating that she's sad to say that he does have it, but he's still in the castle, and that happens to be below the black hole. Bruce says technically nothing is below the black hole, but didn't your people not see this coming for like years? Marta tells him that their people are idiots. The black hole is only hours old, thanks to the tacticon. Marta begins to lead the two towards the castle and explains that when the Chitauri attacked, their people were caught off guard. The Chitauri knew of the power of the tacticon, so they rushed the Emperor to try and take it. The Chitauri then began to slaughter the people, figuring that they could overwhelm the Emperor if he arose, and then they could starve him. The Emperor chose neither of those, and instead used the tacticon to make a black hole. So in the process of killing the Chitauri, the Emperor would also kill the planet. Thor asks, so if we were to recover this tacticon, we could stop the black hole. And Marta says, in theory, but even as the people's greatest warrior, she couldn't stop them. Thor smiles and claps his hands, stating that our goals are the same. We shall save the planet and depart with the tacticon. Thor then whispers to Bruce that he better find something to get angry about real soon. Marta says that before they can continue down their path, she must warn them that that way is completely covered with Chitauri. And Bruce says, well, I can't fight. So Thor asks him, doesn't that make you angry? And Bruce says, not angry, more worried than anything. Marta hands Bruce her gun, stating that since she lost her eye, she can't aim real well anyway. So he knows how to use those, right? As the three charge into the Chitauri group, they make short work of that group. But before long, more begin to appear. Thor grabs Bruce, telling him that he's known him for a long time. He knows the burdens that he bears, but through his faults, there are things far worse than the Hulk. Now it would seem that there is no more time for prep. Go with Marta while I hold back these creatures. Bruce and Marta begin to run on ahead, and as Bruce runs, he begins to feel different, like his feet aren't touching the ground. Marta looks at him, asking him if he normally flies, and Bruce says, no, it's the black hole. She tries to grab a hold of him, but soon she too is lifted by the black hole, and the both of them scream for Thor to come and help them. After cracking one last Chitauri, Thor winds up his hammer and rockets off at the sound of the cries. He shoots by, grabbing the two of them, slamming into the castle walls, creating a loud creaking sound. As the three land, Marta says that the castle is beginning to come down, and Bruce adds that if the tacticon is sucked up, then the whole planet is done for. Thor thrusts his arm into one side of the castle walls, and he wedges his hammer in the other side, shouting, the mighty Thor will not allow it. I shall hold the castle together as long as I can. You must retrieve the tacticon. Marta then begins to lead Bruce away, and she asks how long he can keep that up, and Bruce tells her he didn't even know that he could hold up the castle, so we should probably hurry. As the two of them run down the hallway, a voice calls out, stating that the prodigal has returned. Have they realized the wisdom of his decision? Marta tells the Emperor that the people of this planet need saving. They should not have to die for his honor. And Bruce holds up his gun, stating, yeah, give up the tacticon or I shoot. The bracelet on the Emperor's arm lights up, creating a sort of light, and he cuts through the gun, stating that he'll have none of it. Before the Emperor can attack again, Marta tackles Bruce out of the way, and the Emperor asks, how did I even create such a daughter as you? Bruce asks, daughter? The Emperor is your own father? And the Emperor pulls back his sword as Marta begs him not to do this, and he shouts for her to be quiet, at least have some honor before dying. But before the Emperor can strike, Bruce lets out the Hulk. The anger arises within him, and the green beast arrives, grabbing onto the Emperor's arm, telling him, no. As the Hulk pushes back, he asks, how Emperor use weapon if Emperor can't use arm? And then he snaps the Emperor's arm. The Emperor falls to the ground holding his arm, and the Hulk punches into him, shouting, Tacticon not greatest weapon! Hulk greatest weapon! Marta begins getting up, asking, Banner? And Hulk tells her, Hulk not Banner. Hulk is Hulk. Banner has dad. Banner dad bad like your dad. Marta takes the tacticon off the Emperor and puts it on, stating that she hopes that this thing is easy to use. Outside, the black hole instantly closes, and she says, oh, well, that was easy. All the more reason to get rid of this thing. She tosses the tacticon to Bruce, who catches it, and before Marta can finish the sentence, Hulk disappears. Just as Hulk reappears in the bubble, he looks at his hands and asks where it went. And the promoter holds up the tacticon, stating that they really are something. Never thought that you would get this one. Just kind of threw that round in there for the heck of it. Trico then says that the competition is tied, so how are they going to determine who will fight? The promoter says, oh, you poor dummy, haven't you caught on yet? Suddenly, both the Hulk and Thor are released, and Trico says, why have they been released? And the promoter says that her cosmic powers only work when she's assisting someone, and now she's done. She points the tacticon at Trico, telling him, there's only one way to decide this, and that's sudden death. The promoter goes on, stating that with the Moonstone, she can create this armor, which with Thurgid's belt will make it unbreakable, and the dragon's locket will allow her to heal from anything. And now she has the single greatest weapon in the universe, the tacticon. And with it, the wearer can create any weapon that they can think of. Thor tries to tell her, calm down, and the promoter shouts, no! People like you are the reason that I am the last of my race, using my people for your gain and killing them. Trico then says, what is the point of all of this? I never understood the weak's obsession with tragedy. Your people were weak and died because of it. My people died and only I, Trico Slatterus, have survived. It has made me stronger. The promoter says, you know what? You're right. I can't rob you of the chance to prove how strong each of you are. How about a free-for-all? You aren't afraid of that, right? Trico tells her, let them come. And the promoter says, all right then. Let's find you a more fitting venue. And she snaps her fingers. In a flash, the four of them are standing in the middle of an arena, and Thor asks, where are we? And the promoter says that they are all in the place where it all began. The death pits of Korat 7B. This is the place that her parents tried to close down before they were killed off. And then she shouts to the crowd, telling them, listen up! We are here today to decide who is the greatest warrior in existence. With blue skin and red hair, the champion. And the challengers are one Asgardian and one Earthling, who have been on one side of the universe and the other, the mighty Thor and the incredible Hulk. The crowds cheer and Trico laughs. Come on, which of you is gonna try to take down the champion?
The promoter smiles and says, me. And she punches straight into Trico's back, launching him across the arena. She dusts off her gauntlet, stating that her people died in the service of the strong. She spent her life serving those champions. Now today, she will be the strongest. She creates a pair of chained sickles and swings them at Thor, causing him to jump back, and the other at Hulk. Hulk catches it, stating,
Hulk not scared of little Blaze.
And he pulls the chain as it disappears. The promoter laughs, stating that he should check his hand, and as he reopens it, he sees a ticking bomb. The blast throws the Hulk back, and Thor gets up ready to attack, and then Trico tackles him to the ground, shouting,
you're not going anywhere.
Thor yells, you fool! But Trico punches into him, stating,
you dare call me a fool? I'm winning!
As the two wrestle on the ground, the promoter creates a sword to stab them, but Hulk claps his hand, sending a shockwave that pushes the promoter away. Trico then turns back, asking,
do you not have any honor?
And Thor reaches up, grabbing Trico, headbutting him to free himself. As Trico stumbles back, Thor asks, maybe I've knocked some sense into you to call this whole thing off? Trico charges back, punching into Thor's chest, but as Thor stands there taking the hit, he says, that is rather impressive, but now you will feel real power.
To me, my hammer!
Thor and Trico continue to go at each other, blow after blow, and the promoter steps back, stating that she will just burn this place along with the rest of the galaxy. She then fires a blast, burning and holding everyone in place, and as they all shout out in pain, Thor notices Hulk is moving. He asks, does this not hurt you as well? And the Hulk tells him,
Hulk hurts, but Hulk could still move.
And Thor yells back at him, then knock her unconscious or something. Hulk looks back up and says, no. And he begins to walk towards the promoter as she continues to blast into them. The promoter asks, are you mad? And the Hulk tells her,
Hulk not mad.
And promoter shouts, well, that's nice, I'm furious. Hulk changes and lets Bruce out, and Bruce asks, what's your name? And the promoter says, are you serious? I'm the promoter, the elder of the universe. And Bruce says, no, the champion's real name is Trico Slatterus. What's your real name? The promoter stops the attack and says that it's Zarina. Zarina Owina. Why do you ask? Bruce tells her it's a beautiful name. Sometimes when we get angry, it's easy to forget who we are and let the anger take control. Take it from me. I know about being angry. Zarina then says that nobody has asked her name since her parents died. And Thor asks, is this who you really want to be? And Zarina yells, she has to be. Look at them. They survive because they're strong. And Thor tells her, no, they survive because they fight for the people. Help those that can't help themselves. And Trico yells, hold on, I came for a fight and I want to fight. Zarina says, well, there's a horde of bloodthirsty criminals between you and the door. Why not punch your way out? And Hulk then asks,
can snazzy lady help with one thing first? Hulk could never wear sunglasses that fit Hulk head.
Seconds later, there's a loud kaboom as the four walk out of the arena as it explodes, all wearing cool guy sunglasses. Trico then says that he has a request. How about they still have their fight?
No death, no audience, no weapons. Except Zarina could use the tacticon.
She laughs, stating that no matter who wins, they won't tell anyone. And Thor says, I could use a good grapple. Thor takes off his glasses, stating that he's ready to punch something. And Trico then says that they should begin then. An hour and a half later at the gas station in North Carolina, Thor says that he must profess he had his doubts, but this Pestrel station serves the finest pork that he's ever tasted. And Zarina tells him that she's like an intergalactic review app. She's got them covered. Three eat their food covered in scratches and bruises, and Thor says, well, I do not know why we are in these costumes. Are these what they call suspenders? Hulk takes another bite, stating that these are perfect for Hulk.
Hulk need more pants with shoulder straps.
Zarina then says that she thinks that she'll leave Earth to their care for a little while, and Hulk says,
wherever Zarina go, Hulk know they lucky. Zarina going to help.
Zarina blushes, stating, aw, Hulky, you're not so tough after all, are you? And Thor says, I have an idea. I'd like to find you a place in the galaxy that needs you the most. And Zarina tells him that that's the perfect way to use her powers. Look at him with the clever ideas. A portal begins to open as Zarina says that she's not sure what's on the other side, but thank you. She steps through it, and Thor tells Hulk that he feels as if they've grown throughout these trials. And Hulk says,
Blondie not make this weird.
As the portal shuts, Thor laughs, stating, well, pretend if you must. But the truth is now known that Hulky is a big softy. With one punch, Hulk knocks Thor into another city. I hope you enjoyed today's full story. We're going to be doing another Thor versus Hulk storyline because right now in normal comics, they're fighting again, which is why I thought this would be a fun one to throw up here. We'll show you one of their original battles in the more recent years and then show you the current one going on as that resolves in Banner of War. And if you want to see that storyline, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, and hit that like button so you know when it hits the channel. And if you're watching this video way in the future, just do a search for Banner of War, Comicstorian. All right, I'll see you guys next time.